Welcome to the Bowden Baptist Church podcast. Set in a traditional Sunday school class setting led by Senior Pastor Justin Richards, the class discusses the biblical text verse by verse to seek out the meaning and then how to apply it to life. Here's your host, Justin Richards.
Good morning and welcome to this special episode of the Bowden Baptist Church podcast. Again, as always, sponsored by Bowden Coffee Roasters, roasting the good stuff in Bowden, Georgia for over 15 years. But today's special episode coincides with our West Georgia Foster Summit that is coming up in just a couple of weeks on November the 4th from 10 to 2 at Tabernacle Baptist Church in Carrollton, Georgia. We're going to get the community together and help end this crisis of foster care in our community. And our keynote speaker this year is going to be Peter Mutabazi. And so Peter is a single foster dad, has had over 30 kids in his home, adopted kids. Man, he is living this thing out. And so I hope you will enjoy this interview that I've had with Peter. I want you to tell, if you don't mind, for the folks that might hear this, tell a little bit about your story, but leave them wanting more, right? So that they'll come to our conference and our summit on the 4th of November.
Right, absolutely. Well, I love what you're doing, so I want the church to be involved more, and that's for me what led to where I am. So for me, I'm in the foster care in two different ways. One, as someone changed, I was that kid that someone changed me, and I wanted to do the same. And then being a foster parent, I realized just the opportunity that I had to truly make a difference in the kid's life. I did not have a good dad. I did not have any example of what a good father looks like, I didn't even know I could ever be a good dad because every example I had was horrible. Every man I knew was abusive in every way, shape, form you could imagine. So I didn't really have that kind until later, until a stranger, someone I was trying to steal from, just saw the best in me and changed my life. And so for me, you have no idea where he brought me from, from a street little thief running around to truly a dad. And for me, it's been a joy to pay it forward in some way to say, if someone did this for me, what can I do for someone else, But also for me, the challenge was, Luke 12:48, to whom much is given, much is required. Like, I feel like I am the most wealthiest human being on the planet, in every way, shape, form. Just think about, you didn't have a family, you have a family home. You didn't dream. You can dream now. I didn't have a name until when I was 2 years old because most kids died at the age of 2, and I survived. And now I'm taking care of kids in some way. For me, that truly changed my life in so many ways. But the other part is, the abuse I received, my mother was receiving it as well. So to truly be a dad to kids who come from rough places and being able to embrace where they come from, embrace who they are, and their parents as well. I realized, man, I am not just fostering my kids, but I ought to foster their parents as well, in a way. And as a dad, that has really been really awesome to truly be in that place, where I get a phone call and is a white guy on the other side and is like, well, my kids are coming to you. I'm like, yep, and down the road on really how that has really shaped an amazing relationship to say, man, you've taught me what a father looks like. And I'm glad that you get to teach me that every day as you parent my kids, So truly that has been a full circle of, think about a kid who had no hope, a kid who had no place to be, a street kid who was abused in every shape form you could imagine. But how the kindness of one changed my life is a story to tell,
Right.
And I'm super excited to come and share that with you and your congregation as well, on how that kindness, and I can't wait to go in details on really how he saw a thief, but he didn't see a thief, but he saw a kid with a name, on how he saw a kid who was struggling for food, but he didn't see a street kid, but he saw a kid with potential. And in some way, that's how your church is looking at kids. How can we look at kids and families with the way God looks at us, with potential,
For sure. So what we're going to do at our summit is, it's going to be kind of two streams. We're going to have community involvement and church involvement. And I know you're a single dad who is fostering and adopting. tell folks how we're trying to say, hey, look, you don't have to be the foster parent, but I know for you, Peter, to be successful, even like right now, somebody's keeping an eye on your kids this weekend while you're serving. So kind of explain to our audience what it would look like for a circle of care for folks to come around you and help you be successful as a foster parent and as an adoptive parent.
Right. So, I'm an African, but I believe in this saying, it takes a village to raise a child, and it's not an African saying, it's a community saying. And that's what I love about your church, that it takes a village.
Right.
Yes, I'm a single dad, but to know that I have people when I need diapers, someone I can call and say, hey, run to Walmart and get me diapers. When I run on food and I can't run to the store to say, hey, I need milk and eggs. My kids
Right.
drink milk like they drink, but also too, like when I need time away, time to get a little time off for me, that I have someone I can say, hey, could you have my kids for a weekend just so I can be there for someone, but also be able to do it for others as well. That I have single moms in my community that when they need to do something, I get to be the one to drop their kids at school. So it truly takes a village. And there are some people, yes, who will never be false parents. It's a calling for sure, but we can all do something. And it doesn't matter how small, that it means a lot to us. For example, I have teenagers. I have friends who take them for video games, but for an hour, they have a mentor who gets to spend time with them. To me, that is the greatest opportunity one can be there for them. I have someone who mows my yard once a week, but that's all he's good at. And he's able to really help me and take that weight, that pressure or that need away, that I don't have to worry. I have someone from California I've never met. They send me food every Thursday. Why every Thursday? Because that's the hardest day, visitation. When parents don't show up, when our kids are not feeling well, that I don't have to worry about the meal. So you can see, yes, I'm a single dad who's been able to help 36 kids and now have 7, but how are the communities coming alongside by doing what they know how to do best, and it's really been a joy. And we can all be that too as well, that we truly can be. I'm a single man. Sometimes I have a man who calls me to have a coffee. That's all. Just a coffee for 30 minutes. And for me, that's a therapy for a whole month. So we can see how little things we get to do. And also we don't have to get out of our space to do something different, but really what God has always called us to be. Just, you know how to bake cakes and cookies? Well, make extra for some mom,
Right.
And that's all it takes.
Well, and that's really what we're hoping for. We know that this crisis is not going to be averted by one summit. We're hoping that we're planting some seeds, but having the conversation exactly what you were saying, the words that you were saying for people in our churches and just in our community at large to go, hey, you know what? I'm not really good with kids, but I can cut grass. Like that is huge for however big your yard is, to take an hour of their time or 2 hours of their time to invest in you. That just freed up 2 hours that you can spend with your kids doing a multitude of other things. And man, you referenced the groceries and the diapers. So those are all huge for folks to understand. Look, you do not have to be the parent, but if you'd step up, that there are places that you can really help. And we really want people to do that and do that well. And so obviously I am coming from the angle and the bend as a pastor of a church, but I'm also coming as a foster parent, adoptive parent. I know you've talked about these folks that have supported you from that perspective. But one of the things that we're running into, especially my wife, and after reading your book and knowing your story and knowing the powerful impact that trauma has, what kind of resources do you have around you to help with the kids? Because we know when they walk in your door, they're experiencing trauma from a multitude of reasons.
Yes, absolutely. For one, such with school, I think that's where my kids find it the hardest sometimes, So to really, coming alongside teachers and say, hey, here's how you can help my kids do well in class. Here's some language that you should not use because my kid takes it in a different way. And in that way has really helped them really know my kids, or even include me. Before you send my kids to principal, could you give me a phone call? And sometimes by my kid hearing my voice, that's enough to really calm them and help them as well. Give them normalcy as well, providing ways where they feel they have that normalcy of, and that's kind of where I like people who come in our home who act as uncles and aunties and grandparents,
Right.
That they feel that there's a larger family that loves them, that they are not isolated with this just one parent, but truly they are part of the community that thinks about them at all times. and that's really been really, really helpful. My kids, we go to therapy, but
Right.
sometimes they need therapy from just a friend,
Sure. For sure.
or someone making cookies or a meal for them. And that's really has really helped me to be, I have a toddler and I have a daughter as well, but
Right.
there are things I need, I need female to really teach my
Sure.
daughter, when they take her away for a weekend or for a day, or even just working on, doing their nails, on
Right.
really how that empowers her, and she gets to have that feel of, man, I am wanted, I belong, I am
Right.
chosen. That gives her the opportunity to really deal with her emotions, and the trauma that she really
Sure.
feels sometimes. That there are
Sure.
people to help in a way,
For
and
sure.
that's really been helpful. And even me being
Right.
honest, like for me
Right.
to say, I need to learn, to really be humble to ask for help when I cannot, But until we have these people in our lives, it's hard to ask where no one will understand you.
For
And
sure.
so for me, that's really been humbling to be able to say, I need help,
Right.
But it has to be people around you to say, sure, how can we be? And that really helped me help my kids with trauma, and also educate people like, hey,
Right.
don't judge my kids by the behaviors you see, but let me educate you on how you can empower them to truly feel they're safe and loved and known.
Right. So I should have started off with this. I know that this changes probably weekly for you, but what is your family dynamic today? What does it look like today?
Today, well, today, so I have adopted 3 children. So I've adopted 2 siblings, 7-year-old, 8-year-old, and Anthony, but I have a 19-year-old who just aged out system. And then I have two foster children that I am adopting, sorry, that I'm fostering, and they're from
Right.
Africa. Somehow they ended up in foster care, and it's really been a joy and
Wow.
fascinating to understand, the world where they're coming from as refugees, and being there, I understand their world. So for me, yes, right now, yes, I have, I have I have 7 children, and a
Right.
toddler as well, of course,
Right.
So for now, yes, I have 7.
Right. And
I
that's why I
was
said right now, in 2 weeks, when you show up in Carrollton, Georgia, it could be totally different. And those of us that have been a part of that process know that. So let me ask you this one. This is always fun too. How many kids have gone through your house? Do you keep a running total?
Yes, right now I have 36. So I've had 36
36.
children in the
Okay.
last just 6 years. Yes.
Right. So I know that, and you've really articulated that well, how important it is that, especially in the foster care process, that you're coming alongside not just the kids to keep them safe, but really the game plan is reunification. So that means coming alongside mom or dad, or mom and dad, or whoever that plan is set in place for. So what maybe some practical things that you've done on your end to help those kids transition back into home by helping mom and dad get ready for them to come back.
Right. So for me, from the get-go, I really, well, it begins with me. I saw people uh, on the streets say, what a mother will let their kids be on the streets. But my mother was going through the same abuse as I was going through. And I knew she did everything she could to help me, but that's how far she could go. And the same approach with my kids, to know that their parents, mom gives birth to a child so they can go in the foster care, but to really know what happened and how can we come alongside, and truly come alongside and say, hey, I am not here to judge you. I'm not here to blame you. But how can I work with you so you can have your kids back? And I can tell you, 99.9 of the moms are like, no one has ever come alongside me and say that to me.
Right.
Yes, even the ones I've adopted, they were not able to go back home, but I still have that relationship with the mom to know you could not, but I'm glad that we know who you were. And we pray for you. And as we grow, we're going to help your kids as well. So
Right.
for me, pursuing that relationship with their parents is key. No, it's not always easy at the first time, but
Right.
truly to know that God ordained them to be their parents. And as long as that door is still open, that it is my responsibility to come alongside and be there for them. So for me, writing letters, me and my kids, we get to write ledgers, or we make picture books, and we send them on a monthly basis. Like, hey, he's for mom, to keep that door, but also to know that we are there for them. For me, I also sometimes prefer to talk to the uncle rather than the parents if they are not being cooperative, but find another family member I can say, hey, who over here can really keep that line going? So my kids feel like they still have someone, in their family that can truly be there for them. And that has worked, because they realize that, wow, you love my kids and you're willing to go an extra mile to go to my uncle or my mother to make sure that my kids see them. And I think that has really built that relationship. And too, when those time comes, to know that I can assist them, at the game place, when the kids are doing well, to rejoice with the kids and their families so they get to see the improvements and the milestones they are really meeting as my kids. And that really has been really helpful for the transition, Yes, I think like 28 of my kids have gone back to their parents, but I'm still in touch with all of them because I built that relationship with their parents. And in some way, they've seen me as a resource rather than, someone wants to take their kids. Like, no, I'm here to facilitate and bless you.
Right, absolutely. So through the process of learning more about you, there are a couple of avenues, and so I wanted you to talk a little bit about. I know you're really transparent with your life story, so tell me a little bit about your YouTube channel. So if folks want to go and find a little bit more about you, tell us a little bit about that.
Right. I knew a story, I knew one picture cannot tell the story of Foursquare. And I wanted to peel the curtain, like open the curtain so people can see, hey, I go shopping with my kids. We do activities so people can hear their voices, can hear I think sometimes, people have seen as Foursquare as like those kids out there, and I wanted to show them the positive of it, just how normal they are and how fun it really takes when I get to really show the little behind the scene. And that's why we have the YouTube, so people can journey with us, so they can hear their voices, the things they dream, the things they get to do as well, as a way to really, in some way, show others, maybe also inspire others in a way like, hey, this is how I do it, and you can do it as well.
Okay. And then the other way that my wife and I have definitely got to know you is through your book. So just tell us a little bit about the title, where people can find it if they want to get access to it. And then just a little bit, like I said, I don't want to steal your thunder because you've got a great story that many people need to hear. So I want them to be there at the summit on the 4th. But just a little bit about your book and a little bit about that part of the story as well.
Yes, my book. I wrote my book for my kids, because I thought my kids think I'm the coolest dad, but I wanted to show them like, hey, you think I'm cool, but I beat the odds, that I had the most difficult somewhere and somehow I made it. And I wanted them to see their past as a way to embrace who they are. And that's what I did. I embraced my past and I used it as a platform to do better for myself. And that's why I wrote the book. How can I help someone else know that they can do the best to do whatever they want to do? So you can find my book anywhere, in any bookstore in the world. You can find my book. And truly, that's what I love too, but inspire others as well. So yes.
So that's our goal for the summit, is to encourage, empower, and inform, because I think a lot of people are just the already conversations leading up, are ignorant, and that's not a bad word. They just don't know. And if they would spend a little time, invest a little time learning about the system and how it works, learning about those that work on whatever side of the aisle, if they would learn the process, then I think it takes a lot of the fear away, because we find out that it's just trying to help kids and their parents out, help them through a bad situation. So that's why I want them to see a face that looks different, that, especially with you being from Africa and having a different heritage and a different culture, but it really comes down to raising kids. And, so it really takes a lot of the sting and the pressure away. So really encourage people to track Peter down on YouTube and his YouTube channel. There's some really inspiring, encouraging stuff, and there's some hilarious stuff on there. There's some great stories on there too. But then also, if you haven't checked out his book, make sure you pick that up. I'm sure if you make it to the summit on the 4th, we will have some copies available for you. We have great partners that are supporting this event. They're behind it. And so I'm going to make some resources available, and hopefully you'll take some time to stop by and see Peter and have a conversation with him. Don't forget, November the 4th from 10 to 2, Tabernacle Baptist Church in Carrollton, Georgia. And if you haven't already checked it out, look at the Facebook page, West Georgia Foster and Adopt Summit. We just used the page we already had. This time it's just going to be focusing on foster care. So we hope that you can join us.